Hello there, you beautiful soul, and welcome back to another Culture Talk segment with Rebecca Munoz, your host and founder of Cultured Society. I am here with yet another special guest, and this one is extra special because she is in London currently. And so, these conversations, as you can tell, are very diverse and they're meant to be very multicultural to bring you different perspectives, different life philosophies, different experiences, male and female, so many different age groups, and to teach you that at the end of the day, we are all a part of one body. Our components as we are created are very similar, yet we all have a very specific DNA code that is specific for our own life purpose. And these conversations are brought to you to inspire you, to uplift you, and to recognize that you have the ability as well to do something great. And so these panel of guests are people that I've met throughout my journey, that I've had the opportunity to connect with in cities that I've lived in jobs that I've worked at, and even through social media, this is how Anisa and I met. And I had the opportunity to be a part of her podcast called Unplug with Annie. If you have not had an opportunity to view it or to listen to her conversations, they are also so inspiring. So remember that I will be putting all the information for you to connect with these guests below these videos, so you have an opportunity to view their work in real time. And so with this, I introduce you to Anisa Butt. So Anisa is a British Asian actress, transformation coach, podcast host, and spoken word poet based in London. Having worked in both London and Mumbai, India on record-breaking feature films like, I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's called Yeh Jawani, Hey Deewani.
Yeah.
To smaller indie projects like Brahman Naman, which was acquired by Netflix. She recently dubbed for a British indie feature tentatively titled The Guardian. Anissa was also featured in Anita Rani's BBC Two documentary titled Bollywood, the world's biggest film industry, and has been interviewed by BBC Radio for a podcast on her work as an actress in India. Her podcast, Unplug with Ani, was started out of a passion for connecting with her following. The main themes of the show include mindset, motivation, spirituality, and self improvement. Studying sociology and psychology has contributed to her fascination with human behavior and drive for authentic connection. It's gifted her the opportunity to connect with people from all over the world. Anissa has been fortunate enough to be a content writer on the Big Picture Film Club, as well as sites such as femalehustlers.com. Writing has always been something she has thoroughly enjoyed, specifically poetry. Through all her work, she has found a greater sense of purpose. She's created a safe space for others to grow while evolving and transforming through her own personal growth. And with this, I welcome the beautiful Anisa. Thank you so much for joining me today, Anisa. It's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the beautiful introduction. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so glad that you're doing this, and I think I'm so proud of you for starting this because I think this is just something that you are supposed to do. You're supposed to be connecting with people, and you do such a great job of it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And just like you, I have definitely been inspired to connect with people on a deeper level because of my journey. And like I said earlier, we all have a specific DNA code and we all have a very unique vision that is unfolding so beautifully when we take the time to really tune in and to really ask ourselves those questions and self-assess. And this is the reason why I came up with the questions that I came up with, because it's so important for us to self-assess throughout our journey so that every single day we are reflecting, we are correcting, and we are taking action on the things that we are being called to do, right? So
Mhm.
with this being said, I like to go into our series of questions, and with the first one being, Anisa, what is your life's philosophy?
So, I mean, I'm not sure where I got this quote from. I definitely heard it from someone when I was very young, and it was just that we need to take a little, however much we have, and do the best we can with it. And
Yes.
I know for sure, I've been saying it for years, and I recently just actually was cleaning out a cupboard of mine, and I found a whole bunch of things from school. And when I was like 12, 13, we had to write these mini autobiographies. And I literally have this quote on the last page that I know that it was from somewhere, and it's like at that time the seed was planted, and I've just been saying it forever. So that, if I could sum it up in a nutshell, I think I really do stand by that, which is that, whatever we've been handed in life, I think our purpose is just to do our best.
Yes, 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 yes. Oftentimes we feel like we need to have all this money and all these experiences and all these materialistic possessions for us to be able to fulfill something greater than us. But at the end of the day, because we are so uniquely designed, that we literally have everything that we need inside of us to
Yeah.
fulfill that divine purpose. And that's so beautiful, Anisa. That is such an amazing philosophy to live by. How would you say that that's evolved through the years?
So, it's interesting. And I love this question because I think it highlights the fact that it definitely does evolve as you grow. And I think I used to see it as I used to interpret it in a way that we also still need to strive for what we want, that there was this strive kind of attached to achieving, and also that success comes from that strife, and comes from our attachment to attaining things, like whether it's getting a specific title at work, or getting acknowledged for something, or that it had to play out in this very not tangible form, but in a way that at least it was visible to the eye, which meant that it became a lot about other people and what other people think. And I think I've only really been able to truly dismantle that in this last year. I think the pandemic really kind of forced me to look at my internal beliefs and kind of reevaluate things, and look at behaviors which are no longer serving me. And I think um, I think attaching success to things outside of us externally is a really bad thing to do. Ultimately, like you said, everything we need is inside of us. But when are we really taught that? Because I just don't think I was ever told that. I don't think I heard anyone say it at school. I definitely didn't hear it. Um, so that just, I guess when you like, you are also so committed to personal growth, that I'm sure your ideas and your beliefs have evolved. And I think in the same way, I think once you commit that you want something to change, and you go after it, I think that's when real change happens. So for me, that philosophy completely changed, and I realized that actually, my self-worth is not attached to my achievements. I have to truly believe I'm worthy as I am. And honestly, that's a really hard thing to do. And I feel like it would be a lie to say I've mastered it. I think I really feel like every day I have to consciously tell myself that.
You definitely hit that on the nail because it is so true. We are not taught that in school. In fact, we're always taught to chase material possessions as a means to success. That title, that job title, the type of career, whether go be a doctor, go be an attorney, right? That's like success. But through the journey, I've realized too that when I was trying to attain all of those things is where I felt the most empty inside. You know what I mean? Because that does not ultimately bring happiness. And at the end of the day, when we transition to another dimension, none of that stuff goes with us.
Mm-hmm.
and not even the
So
money. Like we can have millions of dollars in the bank, and what's going to happen to that when we die?
absolutely, absolutely. I think just reminding yourself of your mortality is like a game changer as well, right?
Totally, totally. I mean, and we definitely were exposed to so much of that. Although we experience death, right? We know that it happens, but last year was very prominent in our society, and people that you never imagined, right, that would go that early went. And
Yeah,
it goes to show that none of us really can, we don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, it could happen at any second of the day, and we really have to take into account that everything that we have literally is what we have right here, present. That's it.
absolutely, 100%. I mean, I think as an artist, I've dealt with uncertainty a lot. So, when people ask, how do you navigate? Because suddenly you've been thrust into this world and this space of uncertainty. Everyone, it's like a shared experience for the first time. But I feel like I've always been in a state of uncertainty. However, like you said, we can't take it for granted anymore. And I think it really forced me to really be, even though I thought I was being grateful for what I had, I feel like it opened my eyes to doing that so much more.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes we need the rug pulled from underneath our feet in order for us to wake up and do something different. And that
Mhm.
should happen every single day, because as conscious creators, as we should be operating, we regenerate throughout the night and we wake up every single day with a new opportunity to create something new. And just by having a breath, our breath alone, that's all the abundance that we need. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And yet we take it so much for granted. I
Totally.
know.
I know, but it's a process, and it's a never-ending process, and it's so important for us to give ourselves grace throughout that process. How would you say that your upbringing and circle of influence has impacted the way that you think and live today?
So much. I think I've so I have a personal relationship with faith and God. I've always been extremely spiritual. I do have to thank my parents for just instilling those values, because I think it just gave me so much grounding and a beautiful foundation, at least to start developing my own thought processes and figuring things out. And though it's never been, I wouldn't say it stayed exactly the same. It's revolutionized in itself, and I had to kind of get lost to find out what I actually believe in the journey. I think that had so much to do with me being, I guess, so so connected to my faith, and also believing truly that there's a bigger purpose. I just felt it from like a very young kid. I think I used to just have like conversations with God, and just used to like talk to God as like a friend. And I used to be like, I really want to be an actress and I really want to do this thing, but I know that the unselfish purpose is to help people, and I promise I'll do that too. And I just felt like from very early on there was this pull towards something more, something which was more about actually being on this journey with people. Whenever there was a story that I heard at school, and I think it just had this left this huge imprint on me, which was about a boy being bullied at school. And he was carrying a whole load of books one day, and um he encountered a bully, and everything fell on the ground. And he really that day was actually deciding to take his own life. He'd kind of reached the end of the rope. And it's just at that moment I felt like everything came together, where someone else showed up and actually helped him pick up those books from the ground and offered him a smile, and he changed his mind because of that interaction. And I think there was something about that story which really stayed with me. And I realized the importance of taking every interaction and opportunity to just leave something good with someone, and make the world a better place, even if it's like in a tiny 0.01%. Um, so yeah, I think and that came from just interacting with people and hearing stories. So I think the people we surround ourselves with really, really impact the way we think. Um, Although I feel like as I've grown as an adult, I've had to be really conscious of that. And I only really believe that in the last couple of years, I've been even more conscious of that, to the degree that I'm ready to kind of shut people out if I'm not aligned. I think I used to be very much a yes person for the longest time. And now I'm more like, actually, time is so precious, and I don't really have to spend it with anyone. I can decide, where I want to put that energy. And therefore, the people in my life right now, I think it's just a beautiful combination of very different sorts of people, but I think we're very much aligned. I mean, even like you said, before we started the recording, that we developed this connection and met virtually, we've never met in person, but yet I just think that there's just something so beautiful. I feel like you either just click with people or you don't click with people.
Absolutely. And there's this quote that says, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. And that was like that
Mm,
that perspective shift, because you cannot force change upon people, but when you change yourself, you take your power back and you have the control to choose your circle of influence. You can't change your parents were the vessels, the living vessels that brought you here to this earth, and they're your guides, right? But even your parents oftentimes will try to control and manipulate you as a
mhm.
person. And I'm sure you faced a lot of opposition, especially because you're an Asian, you woman, right? And you are an actress, you are a transformation, you do all these different roles. And in our society, we're so one dimensional, right? We're taught to be so one dimensional, where we're only taught to do one thing. But in reality, our mind is such a powerful tool, and we are multidimensional. So we have the opportunity to do so many different things. How
Mhm.
has your circle of influence changed throughout your evolution, and now knowing yourself more than you ever did before?
Wow, yes. I mean, definitely. I just, sometimes you look back and you just think, like, what the hell was I doing? Like, what was I doing with that person or in that relationship or with that friend even, and at certain times I just feel like that's the crazy thing, because you feel like you walk through life a little bit blind sometimes, when you acquire more and more wisdom, and it's interesting that comes with age and experience, so you couldn't have had that back then. But yet I sometimes find myself judging the old me for making these um but yeah, no, it 100% has. I think I always was anyway very I mean, I'm more introverted, so I always had a smaller group of friends, and it wasn't even necessarily a group. I would say just very individual friends who I really enjoyed spending one-on-one time with. Um, and I think, during my teenage years, it was kind of like wanting to fit into a clique or a group and not quite knowing what my place was. And thinking that that was the cool thing to do, and therefore I was like an outsider because I didn't quite belong anywhere. And I think so much of that has got to do with identity, like you mentioned, even being an Asian woman. And but definitely in the last couple of years, again, I've had to consciously let go of relationships, of people who I really like loved and cared about, and I still care about them, but I've just realized that we can do that from afar. I think a lot of the times we give ourselves that excuse that that means we need that person in our life, or we need to be in their life to help them, or we justify these relationships which actually do not serve us at all. They suck the energy out of you. They turn you into someone that you're not, and make you believe that you're something you're not. And honestly, I think 2019, I kind of, it was like a bit of a dark year for me. I kind of like lost myself that year, and a lot of it was got to do with the people I chose to surround myself with. And at the beginning of last year, right before the pandemic, perfect timing, a lot came to light. And, I had to just kind of cut those strings. And I'm so grateful that I did. So grateful. It's because I just, if I could describe it in one sentence, it would be that I found peace again.
That is so good. And I'm so glad that you said that, because we are the sum of the five people that we spend the most time with. And we have to be responsible enough to choose our circle of influence wisely, because at the end of the day, every single day is a choice and how we look at our experiences. And even when we get into relationships like that, whether it's with friends, with a partner that we're in a romantic relationship with, every experience is an experience, to an opportunity to grow and to reflect, to assess, right, to see if this relationship is serving you, and if it's triggering you, it's an opportunity for you to look within, to see why these experiences are making you feel that way. And you don't have to justify walking away from anyone or anything. You know what I mean? If
Mm-hmm.
it's not right for you, it's not right for you. And if it was at one point and it's not now, because you're constantly evolving, because when we're going through a constant evolution, which we all should be, we should be outgrowing a lot of people, because a lot of people are not on that trajectory. And that's okay. That's okay.
True.
Do you believe that your line of work in artistry infects our society with positivity?
I would really like to believe that. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if that was the reason. That wasn't the reason I fell in love with the craft, for sure. I think I truly just enjoyed that process of performing, and kind of forgetting who I was, because I was super self conscious and underconfident as a kid. That suddenly, if I was taking up this other character and doing something else, I didn't have to think about me. Like, I didn't have to worry about what Anisa looked like or my habits. I suddenly forgot, and for that moment, I could just, it was just sort of magical, because I didn't have to be conscious. So that was the reason I sort of fell in love with acting. But you know what? In the last couple of years, I feel more than ever that that statement is true. And especially how, I think Hollywood are really dismantling a lot of these stereotypes we have had in our head, even just things like representation now. I think in the UK, it is slowly changing, and it's becoming very apparent in conversations, even in terms of conversations with producers and casting directors and channels. And though I think we have a long way to go, I think it has begun, and hopefully it's there to stay. And I think when our belief systems get shaken up a little bit, and we are forced to recognize all of this, more interesting content can be made, and that content ultimately has an impact then.
Mhm.
I know the world, I mean, Hollywood lost Chadwick Boseman last year. And I didn't know him personally, but I kind of felt that mourning for this actor who truly left an impact on everyone he met. There was such a beautiful story which came out about him being in this bookshop. And I don't know if you um, have the opportunity to read it, but just to summarize it, he was in a bookshop, and an aspiring actor came up to him and asked him for some advice. And he took that like 10-15 minutes to talk to that boy and give him some audition advice. And without that boy knowing, he recognized what book the boy might like, and he paid for those books and left it at the checkout and said, just, when he comes, then just tell him just that it's his, and take it, and you don't need to say anything else. And he just kind of, that's it. And it came up time and time again that he would do these things. He would do things like that, and even his fellow actors had a profound effect from working with him. And then I realized that actually, I can make an impact even in a profession like this. And that was a disconnect I had. Honestly, I that's why I think when I was a kid, I used to pray in the way that I did, because I saw this as a selfish thing where it was just it was just because I loved it, but there was no way I could have any positive impact on the world through it. Um, and I think I've just realized recently that actually whatever you do in life, you have an opportunity to change someone's life, to impact someone's life, through these conversations that you're having. Like, you just don't know the impact you're leaving. So I definitely think even a medium like film and acting now, with the stories being told, I think it can really, really leave an impact.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. There's so many nuggets in there that you just stated, and it's so funny because Rena and I were talking about. Rena was one of the guests that I brought in a few days ago, and she stages Hollywood movies. And we were talking about how living in Los Angeles, it could be very superficial. I lived there for about a year and a half back in 2007, and it's a really interesting dynamic, Los Angeles. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack, finding people that are very genuine, authentic, and really don't necessarily want anything from you, because a lot of people are there just trying to rise, right? And they don't care who they have to step on to get there. And oftentimes people will look to Netflix or look to all of these movies to escape their life, kind of like what you talked about, how you wanted to escape your life and not look at
Mhm.
yourself by playing these different roles. And oftentimes we do that in our society, where we don't even want to look at ourselves in the mirror because we don't like what we see or we don't like our history. But what's interesting about the trajectory that's changed in our society, or that I see now more so than ever, especially like watching documentaries and stuff on Netflix, is that now the storylines are starting to go more towards that direction of real life stories, because people really want that. They want to be able to relate to that. They want to understand how they can impact their own lives through these storytellers, right? And it's so important. I think your role is so important, and not just the fact that you're acting out in these, these specific roles, but also that you're using these lessons and these experiences that you're having to coach people through your transformation program and through your writing, your spoken word. I mean, I see you on my news feed all the time, out nuggets of wisdom, and that's so important, that we're having our own experiences and that we're having our own realizations and epiphanies and sharing it.
Mhm.
That's
True. No.
change people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think one thing which is really at the forefront for me is just making sure that I show up as authentic as I can be, because I just feel like, um we have this one life and this one opportunity, and you just don't know. You don't know who you're going to impact, even though it might seem like it will be small. You just have no idea unless you try.
Oh no, you definitely are shining the light. That's for sure. How do you say that you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person, especially in the roles that you play every single day?
I think again it comes down to, I've started asking myself, what is my motive when I do anything? And it's that's been a bit of a game changer. So I ask myself, even now, and it's kind of a recent thing, even if I post on social media, I ask myself, like, am I doing this for the like, or am I doing it because I just want to share because I like it, or I have something to say, or I just want to check in? Because for a while, I think sometimes the motive I recognize, because I dive deep into this process of self development, that actually, so much for us entertainers is also about seeking approval. And a lot of it we can't help, because we are trying to get that next job, and we want the approval of the casting director, we want the approval of the audience, we want someone's approval constantly. And that job makes us feel a little bit more worthy, it makes us feel better about ourselves. It's just kind of a big tick that we're constantly seeking, but then it bleeds into your life. So I just feel like you need that approval in so many other ways. And I found myself doing that, before making decisions, checking in with someone, like, what do you think, before taking the decision, and not trusting myself. And therefore shutting that voice, that inner voice and that guide inside of me. And similarly recognizing that sometimes I was tempted to post something for the sake of approval in some way, or just those likes, just to tell me that, oh, I'm doing something good, or somebody agrees with me in the world, and yay. And it sounds so ridiculous. And I think, yeah, it comes down to recently, especially in this last year, committing to just being as authentic as I possibly can, and just, whether it's in person in conversations, whether it's something I post on social media. I mean, I've had so many media managers reach out to me over so many years, especially the last 5, 6 years, of wanting to handle my IG account. And there's this deep, I don't know, this uncomfort inside of me. Um, I can't do it, just because I just feel like they'll be replying on the behalf of me, and it's not me. And I can't, I feel really weird about doing that. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Oh, no, I'm right there with you. I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact
Yeah,
same way. We live in a society that, again, is very superficial. And we, especially in our social media age, where everybody is just seeking the likes and the validation. And it really is important. And I'm so glad that you have done that self assessment of yourself and really asking yourself, and also connected to your creator since a child, and recognizing why you really wanted to do this work versus seeking the validation from other people that oftentimes aren't really even doing the work. You know what I mean? And so the fact that you've even stopped yourself from going there and having other people manage your media, because what you're doing right now is so relevant, and it's so important for us to show up as our authentic selves, but first do the work within ourselves, because we can't pour out from an empty vessel, and we can't you really inspire people to do the work or to change as well if we're not really doing it ourselves.
absolutely, 100%. And especially when, since I have kind of dabbled into coaching a little bit, I would still consider myself really early on in the journey, but I've just come to that realization that, yeah, there is no way I can help anyone if I can't help myself, in a nutshell.
You cannot. And it's one thing to go to school for psychology or sociology or therapy, right, and read the books, but it's another thing to actually go through the experiences. In fact, I believe that that's so much more powerful. I rather go to someone that has gone through, not maybe not necessarily all the stuff that I've gone through, but very similar experiences and has overcome, than to go through somebody that's just learned this stuff through a book. You can't.
Absolutely.
You can't teach people that. You really do. You have more impact when you have experiences in those realms, and you have, taking yourself through the journey of self healing, because that journey is not easy, and not everybody will commit to it.
True, for sure, for sure. And I think that also, it goes into the performing as well. Like, there's certain roles that sometimes we, especially now, I think that there's more light being shed on authenticity. And But even in the performance world, I feel like you bring those shades to a character only when you've truly sort of experienced those things, and therefore you can bring that truth to the character in a really interesting way. Of course, there are brilliant actors who, I'm not saying that, if you're playing a serial killer, you have to go in and
Right.
have that experience, but you would connect to the pain that that human being has experienced, or you would try and bring something that you can connect to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to actually share this story with you. So the other day, I do a lot of humanitarian work. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I was working with a young girl. I was doing her photos, and it was a gift to her. And she is like a little hustler, man. She reminds me of me when I was young, and she's doing piercings as jobs, and like she does all kinds of work. But I took her back after the photo shoot to the place where she was going to do this piercing for this young girl who's only 20 years old, and she had a scar on her face. And I asked her about the scar, and just 6 months ago she was stabbed by her ex-boyfriend.
God.
And I don't think that I probably would have judged her experience had I not gone through, I mean, I wasn't stabbed, but I had gone through a very emotionally and physically abusive relationship when I was around that age too. And it brought me back to that experience of, you know what? It's oftentimes so easy for us to judge, someone that goes through abuse or goes through these brutal experiences that oftentimes we just don't understand unless we've been through something similar. And then we can empathize, we can have a conversation where we can give people hope. you know
Absolutely.
20 years old being stabbed by her boyfriend, and that's oftentimes the normalities that we live in our society, where people go through these experiences and they don't even know where to turn. You know what I mean? But if they find people like, you or I, that have gone through a lot of, just changes, self-healing, and a lot of pain, right? And we're able to turn it into something positive. That's the power that, we have to inspire other people to change the trajectory of their life.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because even things like abuse, I mean, uh, there is the physical, of course, but even emotional abuse, which we don't see. I think so many women just really are challenged by even sharing their stories because of the shame and the guilt that is associated with that in the healing process. And I think it's such an important conversation to have. So I'm so glad that you brought it up.
Oh, absolutely. It's so important. And I think there's a lot of experiences that people go through, and not just with emotional abuse, but just with decisions that we make, choices that we make throughout our lives, that we live with that guilt and the shame. And then it doesn't allow us to move forward. We're always stuck in the past and in our history, when in reality, every experience is meant to teach us something. And there's no need for us to live with that, because again, every single day is an opportunity for us to make better choices and to look at our history as just a reflection of where we were. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that has to continue to be our narrative.
Hmm.
That's where circle of influence is so important, because when you surround yourself with people that empower you and inspire you, you are able to change your narrative.
Yes, yes, totally.
Totally. So do you believe that your work that you do every day is aligned with your calling and a higher purpose?
Now I do, 100%. I definitely do. I think I used to, and that's just the kind of restless productivity freak in me, sometimes control freak, um, which I do like keeping busy. I genuinely like keeping busy, and I've questioned whether it is the busyness which I like, or the work that I'm doing which I like. And I think it truly is the work I'm doing. I know there's a purpose to it, and that's why I continue to do it. Even certain things which might not be monetary, or I might not see the effect of immediately. And that's when you know that, you are excited about what you're doing. It means something, even if you're not being paid for it. Um, and so I definitely wake up with like a kick in my step, with feeling really excited to take on the day, whatever that looks like. And I am just really proud of getting to that place. I think it has been such a journey, but I feel more aligned than I truly ever have. So I'm really enjoying that. And when you compare to a time where you weren't, I think you understand the difference, right? You understand what it means to just wake up every day knowing that you have a purpose, and trusting that even if you think what you're doing has no purpose, you're going to get aligned to that purpose by moving. Sometimes it's that whole thing of walking by faith, right? I feel like sometimes before we see anything, we have to move.
Absolutely, absolutely. When do you think that shifted for you? At what age?
Honestly, I would say around 28.
So just recently.
Yeah, like in like, yeah, not as in, yeah, I would say in a full on way, yes. Yeah, I mean, before that, I would say it's not that I didn't feel purposeful or I didn't feel aligned, but I still was making decisions which were not congruent. I was still saying a lot of yes when I really wanted to say no, if that makes sense.
It's so funny that you say age 28 because I feel like that's when it's shifted for me as well. And I feel like that's a very common age because 28 years is quite a bit of, time around the sun that you have with experiences, and then with you having so many different roles that you've played. How many times have you moved?
In terms of country,
Relocated. Relocated.
yeah. So I mean, there was one big move, which was when India kind of happened for me. But to be honest, I never saw it as a permanent move that I was making, because it kind of organically happened because of work. And I ended up just being there for ample time, and it therefore became second home. And um, I've always been a bit back and forth,
Okay.
but I have definitely felt a little bit like a nomad, like home is kind of in this space between these two very different countries.
Uh,
And I feel like it's always going to be that way. Like it actually now scares me to just pick a place. I feel like why do we have to pick this one place? Can't we be forever just like bouncing around, and then it's like the practicality kicks in, and it's like, well, you do kind of need one base to operate from. So yeah, it's a bit difficult to say like how many times, but I've been back and forth a whole bunch.
but you haven't had a specific place that you've been in for a long period of time where you could call like that specific place your home, right?
So I mean, I definitely there is something here in London that I think it definitely feels a bit more like home, because I still feel like the majority of childhood was here.
Mhm.
Um, and there is something really special about that. I don't know. There's something very yeah, very kind of comforting. And I don't know if it's right now because I'm back in like home with my folks, and in that environment. Like I know you were saying as well, just going home, it's nostalgic, and there's something, yeah, there's something magical. There's something I don't want to let go of almost, and I'm just like, do I really have to?
Have you faced a lot of opposition and even just like people not really understanding? Because I know for myself that's how I've lived my life, especially majority of my 20s and my early 30s, where I was a nomad and I didn't really have a lot of stuff. I think the last like 5 or 6 years is where I had collected the most amount of stuff. And then I ended up purging everything out last year where I sold everything. And so that just felt a lot more aligned with me, because I feel like when we accumulate so much, it keeps us stagnant, and we don't have the ability to really see things from a higher perspective. So have you faced a lot of opposition, because a lot of people don't live like that?
Yeah, true. I've been asked a lot, like, so where do you want to be? And I'm just like, well, I've always said, like, I think I'm one of those people. I mean, I love staying in hotels. So if I could just bounce around with a suitcase, I think I'd be just fine.
Yes.
and and people are like, no, you won't. There's gonna be a time where you're gonna be like, I wish there was a base. And then I'm just like, oh, maybe it's like it's always that grass is always greener on the other side. I don't know, but I think like you, I have the ability to adapt. I know that. Like I know there's just a couple of things I really need in my bag, and if that's there, then I think I'm gonna be okay and figure it out. But it's nice, like don't get me wrong, it's always nice to have, like, some materialistic things and comfort. And but I think actually knowing that you can do life without it is kind of it feels good.
Yes, yes, because again, at the end of the day, we can't take any of this stuff with us. You know what I mean? But it is nice to have, a few prized possessions that you hold on to, that, it's good to look nice. I mean, I was in the fashion industry for many years. And so, the superficial aspect of looking great or looking cute or whatever, it's a nice thing to have. But I like now, I don't spend a lot of money on my clothes. In fact, majority of my stuff is like given to me now. You know what I mean? Like I don't hold a lot of value in the material possessions that I have. So adaptation has helped me. And I'm sure you can relate. In 2020, I felt like all the moves and the transitions and the adapting that I had to do before 2020 helped me
Mhm.
cope with 2020.
Yes, 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 100%. I have to agree with you. I think, in 2019 end, I really decided, and because I'd been in India for so long, I was asking myself questions of, am I really doing the work that I came here to do, that I'm really excited about? And the answer was no. And I felt like I've got so much potential to do a lot more. I feel like I need to be more in London. And, I left India, leaving really not knowing when I'm going to go back. And a ton of my stuff was there. And, like, I half of my life there, half of my life here. And I got through an 8-month stretch before I ever went back again. So it was a really big kind of test for me. And I realized that actually, I didn't use any of those clothes sitting there. I didn't use any of those things. I hardly ended up using these things because the pandemic hit us, and then we're in the same pair of joggers and like t-shirt, like literally 5 pairs of clothes can pretty much do with. And you just realize that you just sometimes accumulate things you really don't need. And like you said, I think human resilience is incredible. We do adapt when we have to, we adapt.
Absolutely. And change is happening around us every second of the day. And it's a choice for us to transform through the change and to change our perspective through it all, because, that also helps us cope with grieving, the grieving process. Because I know a lot of people now, I've lost a lot of family members in my life through the year, throughout my life, really. And that's really helped me understand that life can be so passive, and it's very important for us to appreciate not only our own life, but also appreciate those that are in it. And that to know that when we transition, that it's an opportunity for us to celebrate each other's lives versus mourning for a long period of time, because our spirit will never die. Our physical body will not be here, but the memories that we, hold on to, and understanding that we are spiritual beings, that we're always going to be, our spirit will always be present. And that just will allow us to transition through any experience with so much ease.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. I'm trying to do a lot more of that, day to day, just trying to be more present in my interactions because I think the phone is such a distraction. And I find myself sometimes like I hate it when you're talking to someone and they're on the phone, right? And then if I ever find myself doing that, I get so mad at myself because I'm like, I need to not do this. It's disrespectful. It's like so I feel like I have to call myself out just because what actually is running through my head is we're not going to be here forever. I'm not going to get this chance to have this conversation with this person.
Oh, yes, that's so true. Well, then that brings me to my next question. What practices do you implement in your daily life to stay grounded and divinely connected to yourself and your source?
So the past month for sure, though I like prayer is a big thing for me. Just yeah, taking that time out to pray on a daily basis whenever it is. But in this last month, I've thanks to Robin Sharma, I've joined the 5 a.m. club, um, and I just find that time when everyone else is sleeping, I just get that time to not only pray, but yeah, just journal if I want to, read a bit of something, just have a nice cup of coffee, just kind of sort my head out, look at kind of what I would like to get done in that day, listen to a podcast. It's just starting my day right. And I truly really am enjoying these daily practices. I really am. It's not feeling like any chore. Hit like 9 o'clock. I've already been up for a bunch of hours, and I feel like the world is waking up, and then I can kind of join in the chaos. So I just am really enjoying these couple of just that solitary time in the morning, 100%.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Anissa. And it's so important for us to have those daily rituals where we do have the opportunity to connect with ourselves and to tune into our own inner voice and to recognize that God is always speaking through us, especially when we're serving the world. And we cannot serve from an empty vessel. So we have to take responsibility to be able to do the things that help us feel connected and full of the wisdom, right? The sovereignty that God has gifted us every single day to be able to give that back to people. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. That's beautiful. What words of wisdom would you give to those that are seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Oh my goodness. um, so one of the first things, even when I'm working with someone in a coaching capacity, I think I try to go back to, everything that really has helped me on the personal growth journey. I think just being able to even define what your core values are, your core values and beliefs, and just the simple step of like looking at that piece of paper where you've written these core values and asking yourself, are you doing what you need to do now in alignment with those core values? Is there anything out of alignment with those core values? Are you doing something which you actually don't want to do? And it sounds like a really like, I don't know, woo woo thing, but it makes so much of a difference because I surprised myself that I never did that before I did. And then I've seen how that changed things, and I've seen how it changes things for other people, because you'll be having a conversation and someone would say like, these are my values. I really someone has to respect me, someone has to, be like this to me. I want to be this person. And yet then they realize that in their everyday life they're not showing up as the person they want to be, or they're interacting with people who disrespect them, whereas respect is such a high value for them. So I think just that simple exercise, just it sheds a lot of light on where you're at right now in the present, regardless of how you want the future to be and regardless of what the past was. Because I think so much of what we do is about escaping ourselves or worrying about something that's already happened or something that we think is going to happen, that we forget like that we can change that right now with what we do right now, that we have this element of control. We're not just passive in our life. We can change the trajectory of our life. um so I just feel like that's a really powerful thing to define for yourself, the things that matter to you, what your values are. I think it's such a powerful first step in personal growth in any way.
Yes, absolutely. That is so real. And, it takes a lot of courage to do the work that you do. And also, it takes a lot of courage to get to that space where you recognize that you're the only one holding yourself back. And when you don't understand that, when the core values are where you need to start, and then you can really start to unfold, right? Every single day, the daily tasks, the daily rituals, the daily actions, how we respond, right? How we react, and understanding that everything that's happening around us, it really is a response of how we feel about ourselves, right? And even when people are not responding in a way that we would like, it gives us an opportunity again to go back to self assess
Mm-hmm.
and recognize that the way that people respond to us, the way that people react to us is not, it has nothing to do with us, but it does have everything to do with us in the way that we respond to the people that are responding to us. It's a constant mirror effect.
It is. It is. Yeah, you said it so right. It is, and that's become it. I'm trying to like practice that, daily. Like even with parents, even with, and it's the hardest thing, right? Especially when other people are not on that journey. They're not doing the work. So there's like this critical voice in your head being like, "Wait a second, you didn't have to react like that." And then it's just like, okay, from where are they speaking from? Why are they reacting like this? And then that compassion comes to the surface and you realize that it's okay. I had my moments. I was like, I was doing that too. I just know a little better now, which is why I can be better.
Absolutely. And this work just allows us to have a greater sense of awareness. And when we come from a greater sense of awareness, we have the ability to really like just shape our reality in a way that we would like to experience. You know what I mean? And the world doesn't have to be experiencing the same thing. But I always go back to the scripture that says, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you will be able to test what's perfect, pleasing, and perfect in God's eyes, right? And
Mhm.
that's the ultimate goal.
So true. I think that sums it up beautifully. Yeah.
That is the ultimate goal. Well, do you have any finishing statements that you would like to add, beautiful Anisa?
Well, I mean, Rebecca, this was so great. It's such a privilege. I truly, I mean, I really enjoy having these conversations. It's amazing to be challenged in a conversation as well, to meet people who challenge your walk. And I know that even in that year of crazy transition, which was 2019, I know that I reached out to you and we connected, and you were just so present and always available for me. And I'm always going to remember that, despite the fact that we haven't met. So everything we're talking about, you're living, and I think it's so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that you asked me to be part of this. And I truly hope that it definitely leaves an impact, and someone somewhere resonates.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. I mean, you and I hadn't met. We hadn't even really had much of an interaction when you asked me to be a part of your beautiful podcast, and it was such an honor. And we always need to return the favor. We always should be serving one another and supporting one another in these journeys that we're on, especially when we're both on a very similar trajectory and we both have we have a similar way of doing things, yet we're in completely different realms. I mean, you're in London, I'm in New Mexico. How beautiful is that, that we can connect, we can collaborate, and we can inspire different audiences together. So I'm just it's been an honor to have you a part of this platform because you have such a great voice, and I absolutely admire and am so inspired by all the work that you're doing. Continue to do it. And even when you feel like things aren't happening, they really are, because I'm right there with you. I mean, so much of the work that I have done in these previous years are now coming into fruition now, but it's just, I mean, I've had to sacrifice so much to get to this space. And even though I'm not really getting much out of it, the reward is so much greater than the monetary value that this is bringing for me, because I just look at money as a circulation of energy, and that we're always going to be provided for. Like you said, we don't need a lot to survive, and when we're operating in our gifts, God will open the doors that we never imagined that would be open. So, with this being said, I will leave you with this. I pray that every single person that comes through these doors to listen to these conversations, that you are inspired, that you are moved to continue to walk in your divine purpose. And remember that even though things may not be going the way that you planned, that when one door closes, another door opens, and your timing is never God's timing, and it's always the perfect timing. So you are exactly where you need to be in order for you to continue to move forward, for your story and your purpose to continue to unfold moving forward. With this, I send you so much love and light. Peace.